What if everything you've been told about success is a trap? What if the plan you're following, work hard for 40 years, save your money, retire at 65, and then finally live, is designed to keep you productive but never free? What if the people living extraordinary lives right now aren't waiting for retirement, aren't working 60-hour weeks, and aren't trading their entire youth for a promise of relaxation when they're too old to enjoy it? Right now, there are people earning more than you while working 4 hours a week. There are people traveling the world while their businesses run automatically. There are people who've escaped the 9-to-5 prison and designed lives of freedom that most people think are impossible. And they're not lucky. They just learned rules that school never taught you. You're about to discover why working more does not equal earning more, why being busy is a form of laziness, why retirement is a flawed concept designed for another era, and the exact blueprint for escaping the deferred life plan and living extraordinarily right now. This isn't about getting rich quick. This is about getting free permanently. Let's begin. Picture the typical success story you've been sold. Go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a good job, work your way up, save money, work hard for 40 years, retire at 65. Then, finally, live the life you always wanted. Travel, relax, enjoy your time, pursue your passions. This is the plan almost everyone follows, and it's completely insane. Think about it. You're trading the healthiest, most energetic years of your life, your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, for a promise that maybe, if everything goes according to plan, you'll get to enjoy yourself when you're in your late 60s. Maybe. If you're healthy, if you saved enough, if the economy didn't crash, if you didn't get downsized, if you're deferring life. You're putting living on hold until some distant future that might never come. And even if it does come, you'll be old, tired, and running out of time. The energy, health, and vitality you need to do the things you dream about. You're spending all of that in a cubicle or office right now, making someone else wealthy while you wait for permission to live. This is what Timothy Ferriss calls the deferred life plan, and it's the default program most people are running without ever questioning it. They sacrifice the present for a future that's not even guaranteed. They work jobs they tolerate or hate because that's what responsible people do. They postpone their dreams because someday they'll have enough money, and time someday never comes. Meanwhile, there's a small group of people living completely differently. They've rejected the deferred life plan entirely. They're not waiting for retirement to travel. They're traveling now. They're not working 40-hour weeks. They're working a fraction of that while earning more. They're not tied to one location. They're location independent, living wherever they want. They're not trading time for money. They've built systems that generate income automatically. These are the new rich, as Ferriss calls them. And they're not trust fund kids or lottery winners. They're regular people who learn to think differently about work, time, money, and life. They asked one simple but revolutionary question: what if I could have the retirement lifestyle now in my prime instead of waiting until I'm old? This is what the 4-hour Workweek, Escape 9 to 5, Live Anywhere, and Join the New Rich reveals. A complete blueprint for designing a lifestyle that gives you time and mobility now, not 40 years from now. A system for earning money without trading your entire life for it. A framework for escaping the traditional work model and creating freedom on your own terms. The title, 4-Hour Workweek, is provocative and literal for some people, metaphorical for others. The point isn't that everyone needs to work exactly 4 hours per week. The point is that you can design a life where you work dramatically less than the standard 40 to 60 hours while earning the same or more, giving you freedom to actually live instead of just preparing to live someday. Ferriss opens with a challenge to conventional wisdom. Society tells you that working more equals earning more, that busy equals productive, that you need to be at your desk 40-plus hours a week to be successful, that taking time off is lazy, that you can't travel extensively until you retire, that you need millions saved before you can afford the lifestyle you want. What if all of that is wrong? What if you could earn more by working less, not because you're lazy, but because you're strategic? What if being busy is actually a form of procrastination, avoiding the hard work of figuring out what actually matters? What if you could fund a lavish lifestyle for a fraction of what you think it costs? What if you could travel for months or years while your income continues and even grows? This sounds impossible to most people because they've been conditioned to accept limitations that aren't actually real. They assume the rules they've been following are fixed. They don't realize that almost every rule about work, time, and lifestyle is negotiable if you're willing to challenge it. The book is structured around a 4-step process Ferriss calls DEAL: definition, elimination, automation, and liberation. Definition: clearly defining what you actually want and why you're working in the first place. Elimination: removing the 80% of activities that don't produce results. Automation: building systems that generate income without your constant presence. Liberation: gaining the time and mobility to live life on your terms. What you're about to learn will probably make you uncomfortable if you've been following the traditional path. It will challenge beliefs you've held your entire life about work and success. It will make you question whether the sacrifices you're making are actually necessary. It will show you that the cage you're in isn't locked. You've just never tried the door. Some people will reject this message immediately because it threatens their worldview. They've invested so much in the traditional path that considering an alternative feels like admitting they wasted time. Don't be that person. Be willing to question everything, even if it's uncomfortable. Others will love this message but do nothing, which is even worse. They'll feel excited for a week, then return to their comfortable routines because change is hard and the unknown is scary. Don't be that person either. Be the person who sees possibility and takes action. Be the person who questions the rules they've been following blindly. Be the person who values their time and freedom enough to design a life that honors those values rather than sacrificing them for a paycheck and societal approval. The life you want isn't 40 years away. It's not waiting for retirement. It's available now if you're willing to think differently and act accordingly. Let's explore how. Chapter 1: Definition: The New Rich. Before you can escape the 9-to-5, you need to understand what you're escaping to. This chapter defines the lifestyle of the new rich and challenges the traditional definition of wealth and success. Ferriss begins with a crucial distinction. The new rich, NR, are not the same as the traditionally wealthy. The traditionally wealthy measure success by total net worth. They want millions in the bank, expensive possessions, impressive titles, and the ability to buy whatever they want. They'll work 60 to 80-hour weeks for decades to achieve this. The new rich measure success differently, by time and mobility. Their goal isn't accumulating maximum money, it's having maximum freedom to do what they want, when they want, where they want. They'd rather earn $40,000 per year, working 4 hours a week, than $100,000 per year, working 50 hours a week, because time is the ultimate currency. This is the fundamental mindset shift. Most people focus exclusively on making more money, assuming more money equals better life. But money without time is pointless. What good is $1 million if you're too busy earning it to enjoy your life? What good is a high salary if you're chained to a desk, counting down to a retirement that might never come? The new rich understand that lifestyle design is about creating freedom first, then funding it. The question isn't, how can I make the most money? The question is, what do I actually want my life to look like? And what's the minimum income required to fund that lifestyle? This creates a completely different calculation. Most people assume they need millions to live the life they want. Ferriss shows that many dream lifestyles cost far less than you think when you get strategic. Want to live in a beautiful location? Many amazing places around the world have incredibly low costs of living. You can live like royalty in Thailand, Portugal, or Mexico for a fraction of what it costs in New York or San Francisco. Want to travel constantly when you're not paying rent in an expensive city, when you're house sitting or staying in affordable locations, when you're taking advantage of geographic arbitrage, earning in strong currencies while spending in weaker ones. Extended travel becomes surprisingly affordable. Ferriss introduces the concept of mini retirements throughout life, rather than one big retirement at the end. Why wait until you're 65 to travel for a year, when you could take 3 to 6 month trips every few years throughout your life while you're young and energetic? Why defer all your dreams to an uncertain future when you could distribute them throughout your life? The chapter challenges the deferred life plan explicitly. That plan made sense in the industrial era, when jobs required your physical presence, when communication across distances was difficult, when automation wasn't possible. But we live in a completely different era now. The internet makes location-independent work possible. Automation tools make businesses run without your constant involvement. The old rules don't apply anymore, but most people are still following them. Ferriss shares his own story, working 80-hour weeks in a business he built, making good money, but completely miserable, stressed, and wondering if this was all life had to offer. He realized he'd created a job, not a business. He'd bought himself a salary, but lost his freedom. So he experimented with radical changes, automation, elimination, remote work, and mini retirements. The result: he made more money while working a fraction of the time and traveling the world. This chapter also addresses common objections. But I have responsibilities. Yes, and you can still design around them. But my industry won't allow remote work. Maybe your current position won't, but you can create alternative income streams that do. But I can't afford to travel. Geographic arbitrage and mini retirements are often cheaper than staying home working full-time. The definition phase is about getting clear on what you actually want, not what society says you should want, not what will impress other people. What do you want? If money weren't an issue, how would you spend your time? Where would you live? What would you do? Who would you spend time with? What skills would you develop? What experiences would you pursue? Most people have never honestly asked these questions because they've assumed their dreams are impossible or irresponsible. But when you actually calculate what it would cost to fund your dream lifestyle, especially if that lifestyle involves mobility and geographic arbitrage, you often discover it's far more attainable than you thought. Ferriss introduces the concept of dreamlining. Reverse engineering your dreams by calculating exactly what they cost and exactly what you'd need to do to afford them, not someday, not after retirement, within the next 6 to 12 months. This exercise is powerful because it transforms vague dreams into concrete targets with actionable steps. The chapter ends with this challenge. Most people don't have a dream problem. They have a clarity problem. They know vaguely that they're not happy with their current situation, but they've never defined specifically what they want instead. Definition is the first step. Get clear on what the new rich lifestyle means for you specifically. Then you can start building toward it. Chapter 2. Elimination, the 80-20 principle. Once you've defined what you want, the next step is eliminating everything that doesn't move you toward it. This chapter reveals how 80% of what you do produces almost no results, and how eliminating it creates massive leverage. Ferriss introduces the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule. 80% of results come from 20% of efforts. This applies everywhere. 80% of your income likely comes from 20% of your clients or customers. 80% of your problems come from 20% of your clients. 80% of your happiness comes from 20% of your activities. 80% of your time produces only 20% of your results. This means most of what you're doing is wasted effort. You're spending time on activities that don't move the needle. You're serving clients who create problems but don't create profit. You're working on tasks that feel productive but don't actually produce valuable outcomes. The elimination phase is about ruthlessly cutting everything that doesn't serve your goals. This is harder than it sounds because busy feels productive. We confuse activity with progress. We answer every email, attend every meeting, handle every request, and call it work. But if that busy work isn't producing actual results, you're just rearranging deck chairs. Ferriss shares his own experience applying this. He analyzed his business and discovered that 5 of his customers generated 95% of his profits, while the other 95% of customers generated only 5% of profits, but consumed massive amounts of time with complaints, requests, and problems. His solution? He fired the 95%. He eliminated almost all his customers, keeping only the profitable, low-maintenance ones. Revenue dropped slightly at first, but his time freed up dramatically. He then focused that time on serving the remaining high-value customers even better and attracting more customers like them. Result? Higher profits with a fraction of the work and stress. This is counterintuitive to how most people think. More customers equals more success, right? Not if those customers cost more in time and stress than they generate in profit. Quality over quantity. Selective rather than indiscriminate. Strategic rather than busy. The chapter introduces the concept of selective ignorance. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to read every email, every news article, every message. Most information is irrelevant to your goals. Ferriss advocates for a low-information diet, deliberately limiting information consumption to only what's essential for your specific goals. This means ignoring news. It's largely irrelevant to your personal life and creates anxiety. Batch processing email instead of checking constantly. Saying no to meetings that aren't essential, and being ruthlessly selective about what you consume and what you participate in. The chapter also addresses interruptions, the enemy of productivity. Every time you're interrupted, you lose 20+ minutes recovering focus and getting back to deep work. Yet most people allow constant interruptions, emails popping up, phone calls, messages, people dropping by their desk. They spend entire days interrupted and wonder why they accomplish nothing meaningful. Ferriss advocates for batching and scheduling. Instead of checking email constantly throughout the day, check it once or twice at scheduled times. Instead of taking calls whenever, schedule specific times for calls. Instead of allowing people to interrupt whenever they want, set boundaries and specific times you're available. This feels rude to people who've been trained to be constantly available. But being constantly available means being constantly distracted, which means being constantly unproductive. Protecting your time isn't selfish. It's essential for actually accomplishing anything meaningful. The chapter introduces Parkinson's Law. Work expands to fill the time available. Give yourself a week to complete a task. It'll take a week. Give yourself 2 hours. It'll take 2 hours. Most people have open-ended time frames for work, so work expands infinitely. Ferriss advocates for artificial deadlines that force focus and efficiency. He also introduces the concept of the not-to-do list, specifically defining what you will not do. Most people have to-do lists that grow infinitely. The not-to-do list protects you from busy work. Examples: I will not answer calls from unrecognized numbers. I will not check email before noon. I will not attend meetings without a clear agenda. I will not work on weekends. These boundaries create space for what actually matters. The chapter addresses the guilt many people feel about eliminating and saying no. We've been conditioned to say yes to everything, to be helpful, to be available, to be team players, but saying yes to everything means saying no to your priorities. Every yes to someone else's agenda is a no to your own. Ferriss argues that being selective is not selfish, it's strategic. When you protect your time and energy for what actually matters, you produce better results in less time. You serve your important clients better because you're not drained by problem clients. You do your best work because you're not constantly interrupted. The elimination phase creates leverage. By removing the 80% of activities, producing only 20% of results, you free up massive time and energy to focus on the 20% of activities, producing 80% of results. This is how you work less and accomplish more, not by working harder, but by eliminating wasted effort. The chapter ends with this insight: being busy is a form of laziness, lazy thinking, and indiscriminate action. It's easier to just do everything than to make hard choices about what actually matters. It's easier to answer every email than to decide which emails deserve responses. It's easier to attend every meeting than to evaluate which meetings are actually valuable. True productivity isn't doing more. It's doing less, better. Chapter 3. Automation, building a muse. Elimination creates time. Now you need to replace or supplement your income so you can actually use that time freely. This chapter reveals how to build automated income streams that pay you whether you're working or not. Ferriss introduces the concept of a muse, a business that generates income automatically with minimal ongoing input from you. This is different from a traditional business where you trade time for money, or a job where you're paid only when you're working. A muse pays you continuously, whether you're sleeping, traveling, or relaxing. The key is building systems and processes that run without your constant presence. This might sound impossible, but the internet and automation tools have made it accessible to almost anyone. You don't need massive startup capital. You don't need employees. You don't need office space. You need a smart business model and the willingness to build systems. Ferriss walks through the ideal muse characteristics. First, it should be scalable, able to serve one customer or 1,000 without proportionally increasing your time investment. Digital products, information products, and automated services fit this model. Physical products can work if you automate fulfillment. Second, it should have high margins, significant difference between what it costs to produce and what customers pay. Low-margin businesses require huge volume to be profitable, which means more complexity. High-margin businesses can be profitable with relatively few customers, which keeps things simple. Third, it should solve a specific problem for a specific market. The riches are in the niches. Don't try to serve everyone. Find a specific group of people with a specific problem they're willing to pay to solve and serve them exceptionally well. The chapter introduces the process of testing business ideas quickly and cheaply before building full businesses. Most people spend months or years building something without validating whether anyone actually wants it. Then they launch, hear crickets, and wonder what went wrong. Ferriss advocates the opposite. Test first, build later. Create a simple landing page describing your product or service. Drive small amounts of targeted traffic to it. See if people are interested enough to click buy. You can tell them it's sold out or coming soon. If no one's interested at this stage, don't build it. If people are interested, now you know you have a viable product worth building. This rapid testing approach saves massive amounts of time and money. You validate demand before investing in inventory, development, or infrastructure. You learn what people actually want, rather than what you think they want. The chapter explores different muse models. Information products, ebooks, courses, membership sites are popular because they have nearly zero marginal cost, selling one copy or 1,000 costs about the same, and can be automated completely. Physical products work if you use fulfillment services that handle storage and shipping, removing you from the physical logistics. Service businesses are trickier to automate but possible if you systematize everything and hire contractors or virtual assistants to deliver the service while you manage the system. Software as a service, SaaS, is highly automatable, but usually requires more technical skill or investment to build. Ferriss emphasizes starting simple. Don't try to build a complex empire immediately. Build one simple muse that generates a few thousand per month. Perfect the systems. Get it running smoothly. Then consider building another. One automated income stream is life-changing. Multiple streams create serious freedom. The chapter addresses the role of outsourcing and virtual assistants. You don't need to do everything yourself. In fact, you shouldn't. Your time should be spent on the highest leverage activities: strategy, marketing, improvement. Everything else can be delegated to people who are better at those tasks and cost less than your time is worth. Virtual assistants in countries with lower costs of living can handle administrative work, customer service, research, and various tasks for $5 to $25 per hour. For someone whose time is worth $50 to $100 plus per hour, this is massively leveraged. You're buying back your time at a fraction of what it's worth. Ferriss provides examples of tasks to outsource: email management, calendar scheduling, research, data entry, customer service, bookkeeping, social media management, content creation, graphic design. Almost anything that doesn't require your unique skills or judgment can be delegated. The chapter also covers the importance of creating systems and documentation. If everything is in your head, you're irreplaceable, which means you can't step away from the business. If everything is documented in systems and processes, other people can handle it without you. This is the key to automation, replacing yourself systematically. Standard operating procedures, SOPs, for every recurring task. Decision trees for common situations, templates for common communications. The more you systematize, the less you're needed day to day. Your role shifts from operator to architect, designing systems rather than operating within them. Ferriss addresses a common fear: if I automate everything, what will I do? This fear reveals how deeply we've internalized the belief that we must work constantly to have value. The point of automation isn't to lie on a beach forever, though you could. The point is to free your time for what you actually want to do, whether that's another creative project, learning new skills, traveling, spending time with people you love, or contributing to causes you care about. The chapter ends with this: automation is about leverage. You're setting up systems that work for you rather than you working in them. This takes upfront effort: building the systems, testing the processes, training people. But once it's running, you've bought your time back. You've created freedom. That's the goal. Not passive income for its own sake, but freedom to live life on your terms. Chapter 4. Liberation, Remote Work and Mobility. You've defined what you want, eliminated what doesn't matter, and ideally created automated income. Now comes liberation, actually using your freedom to live differently. This chapter tackles how to negotiate remote work arrangements and embrace mobility. Ferriss acknowledges that not everyone can or wants to immediately quit their job and start a business. For many people, the bridge is negotiating remote work arrangements with current employers, working from anywhere rather than being tied to an office. The chapter provides a step-by-step approach to negotiating remote work. First, prove you're valuable. Remote work is a privilege earned through demonstrated results, not an entitlement. Before asking, make yourself indispensable. Exceed expectations. Solve problems. Make your boss's life easier. Build trust. Second, present it as a trial. Don't ask for permanent remote work immediately. Propose a test. Let me work from home 2 days this week as an experiment. I'll show you my productivity doesn't decrease. Make it low risk for your employer to say yes. Third, demonstrate increased productivity during the trial. Track your output. Show that you accomplished more at home than in the office, which you likely will due to fewer interruptions. present data. Make the case that remote work benefits everyone. You're happier, the company gets better results. Fourth, gradually increase remote time. After a successful 2-day trial, propose 3 days, then 4, eventually full-time remote. Each step is a small ask built on proven results. This gradual approach is much more likely to succeed than immediately asking for full remote work. Ferriss also addresses objections employers commonly raise. We need you for meetings. Solution: attend meetings via video call. We need FaceTime for collaboration. Solution: be available for scheduled video collaboration. How do we know you're working? Solution: measure output, not hours. Results matter, presence doesn't. The chapter emphasizes that if your current employer absolutely refuses remote work, despite proven results, you might need to find a different employer, one that values results over physical presence. The world is shifting toward remote work, and companies that don't adapt will lose top talent to companies that do. Once you have remote work established, whether through your employer or your own income streams, liberation becomes real. You're no longer tied to one physical location. You can live anywhere with reasonable internet access. This opens extraordinary possibilities. Ferriss shares his experiences with extended travel while working, living in Berlin for a month, spending a season in Thailand, exploring South America. Because he could work from anywhere, location became a choice rather than a constraint. And living in different places while earning income from strong currencies creates significant financial leverage through geographic arbitrage. The chapter addresses practical logistics of mobile lifestyle. Where do you live? Furnished short-term rentals, house sitting, house swapping, slow travel, staying in places for weeks or months rather than days. How do you handle possessions? Minimal possessions, storage for what you keep, embracing the freedom of owning less. How do you handle logistics like mail, banking, taxes? Use mail forwarding services, set up online banking. Understand tax implications of being location independent. There are legal ways to minimize tax burden when you're not tied to high tax locations. Ferriss challenges the assumption that you need a permanent base. Many people discover that constant travel isn't as appealing as they imagined. It can be tiring and isolating. But having the option to travel whenever you want, staying in places as long as you want, and returning to a home base when you want, that's true freedom. The chapter also addresses fears about mobile lifestyle. But I have family and friends here. You can still visit regularly. And video calls make maintaining relationships across distance easier than ever. Many people discover that leaving forces them to be more intentional about relationships rather than just maintaining proximity-based friendships. But I'll be lonely? Not if you're intentional about community. Digital nomad communities exist in cities around the world. You can connect with people who share your lifestyle and values. Many people report making deeper friendships through travel than they had in their home city. But what if I don't like it? Then you come back. Nothing is permanent. The beauty of the mobile lifestyle is flexibility. It's not all or nothing. You can try it for 3 months. If you love it, continue. If you don't, return home. You've risked nothing, but gained valuable experience. Ferriss introduces the concept of mini retirements again, taking extended breaks, 1 to 6 months, between intense work periods. Instead of deferring all travel and adventure to retirement, distribute it throughout your life. Work intensely for 6 to 12 months. Then take 1 to 3 months off. This rhythm prevents burnout and allows you to enjoy life while you're young and energetic. The chapter addresses the objection that this sounds selfish or irresponsible. But I have responsibilities. Ferriss argues that designing a life you actually want to live makes you more present and effective in all your roles. Parents who model freedom and intentional living give their children a more valuable education than parents who model martyrdom and deferred dreams. Partners who pursue fulfilling lives bring more to relationships than partners who sacrifice everything and resent it. The liberation phase is about actually using your freedom. All the elimination and automation means nothing if you never step out of your comfort zone and try something different. Many people do the work to create freedom, but then don't use it. They fill their free time with more work because they're uncomfortable with actual leisure or uncertain what to do with freedom. Ferriss challenges you to actually test your ideal lifestyle. Don't just theorize. Experiment. Take a 1-month trip to a place you've always wanted to visit. Try living somewhere different for a season. Work remotely from a friend's city. These experiments reveal what you actually enjoy versus what you theoretically think you'd enjoy. The chapter ends with this vision. Liberation is the payoff for all the work you've done in definition, elimination, and automation. It's actually living the life you designed rather than just thinking about it. It's waking up in different cities. It's exploring new cultures. It's learning new languages. It's taking salsa lessons in Buenos Aires, or surfing in Bali, or writing in a Parisian cafe. It's whatever you want it to be. That's the point. You're no longer constrained by geography, schedule, or someone else's expectations. You're free. That's what the 4-hour workweek makes possible. Chapter 5, Lifestyle Design and Practice. The final section translates theory into practice with real-world examples, case studies, and specific tactics for implementing everything you've learned. Ferriss shares multiple stories of people who've successfully implemented the 4-hour workweek principles. The entrepreneur who built a supplement business, automated the fulfillment and customer service, and now works 4 hours per week, while the business generates $40,000 per month. The corporate employee who negotiated full remote work and now lives in Thailand while earning a Silicon Valley salary, creating massive financial leverage through geographic arbitrage. The couple who sold everything, bought an RV, and travel full-time while both working remotely. The teacher who built an online course during summer break now earns more from the automated course than teaching and is transitioning to full-time lifestyle design. These aren't exceptional people with unique advantages. They're regular people who applied these principles. What makes them different? They questioned assumptions others accept without thinking. They took action despite fear. They experimented despite uncertainty. They persisted through challenges. Anyone can do this. The question is, who will? The chapter provides specific tactics for implementation. Start with time assessment. Track every hour for 1 week to see where your time actually goes. Most people are shocked to discover how much time they waste on activities that don't matter. This awareness is essential for elimination. Next, do a Pareto analysis. Identify the 20% of activities that produce 80% of your results. What specific tasks, clients, projects generate the most value? Focus intensely on those. Then identify the 80% that produce minimal results. These are candidates for elimination or delegation. Implement a low-information diet. Stop consuming news. Limit social media. Batch email checking to specific times. Ferriss recommends checking email only twice per day, maximum. This feels impossible to people addicted to constant connectivity, but it's liberating. The world doesn't end because you didn't see an email within 5 minutes. Start selective unavailability. Set specific times you're available for calls, meetings, and interruptions. Communicate these boundaries clearly. I'm available for calls Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 4 p.m. Let's schedule something in that window. Protect your time from constant interruption. If you have a job, begin the remote work negotiation process outlined earlier. If you're entrepreneurial, start testing business ideas using the rapid validation approach. Create simple landing pages for potential products. Drive small amounts of traffic. Test demand before building. Don't spend months building something nobody wants. Set up automation systems. Autoresponders for common emails. SOPs for recurring tasks. Virtual assistants for delegatable work. Start small. Delegate one task this week to a VA. See how it goes. Gradually delegate more. The goal is replacing yourself in operations so you can focus on strategy. If you're building a muse, focus on high-margin, scalable products or services. Information products are ideal starting points because they require minimal investment and are completely automatable. What knowledge do you have that others would pay to learn? What problem can you solve for a specific market? Start with one income stream. Perfect it. Get it to $1,000 to $5,000 per month. Then consider adding another. Don't try to build 5 businesses simultaneously. You'll build nothing successfully. Focus creates results. The chapter addresses mindset shifts required for success. You need to let go of perfectionism. Done is better than perfect. You need to embrace experimentation. Most things won't work, and that's fine. You learn what doesn't work, which gets you closer to what does. You need to develop comfort with uncertainty. You won't have all the answers before you start. You figure it out as you go. You also need to redefine productivity. Busy doesn't equal productive results, equal productive. You might work fewer hours, but produce better outcomes by eliminating waste and focusing on leverage. This requires trusting yourself and resisting the cultural programming that says you must work constantly to have value. Ferriss addresses common implementation mistakes. First, trying to do everything at once. This is overwhelming and leads to quitting. Instead, implement one principle at a time. Master elimination before focusing on automation. Get remote work established before planning extended travel. Second, waiting for perfect conditions before starting. There's never a perfect time. Kids, mortgages, health issues, economic conditions. There will always be reasons to delay. Start now with whatever you can, even if it's small. Small action beats perfect planning. Third, giving up too quickly. The 4-hour workweek isn't a 4-week transformation. It takes time to build automated income, negotiate remote work, develop new habits, and overcome decades of programming. Many people try for a month, don't see dramatic results, and quit. Give it 6 to 12 months of consistent effort before evaluating. The chapter also addresses what to do when you've achieved the 4-hour workweek, when you've created the freedom you sought. Some people reach this point and feel lost. They've spent so long working toward freedom that they don't know what to do with it once they have it. Ferriss recommends the fill the void process. Once you've eliminated the busyness and created space, fill it intentionally with activities that genuinely fulfill you, not more work dressed up as productivity. Actual fulfillment, learning, creating, connecting, contributing, experiencing. This might mean pursuing passions you never had time for, learning instruments, languages, or skills, creating art, writing books, building relationships, traveling, volunteering, mentoring, physical challenges. Whatever genuinely engages you rather than just filling time. The chapter ends with a final challenge. Most people who read this book will do nothing. They'll feel inspired. They'll think, that sounds nice. And they'll return to their comfortable routines. They'll stay in jobs they tolerate, defer dreams to retirement, and wonder why life feels unfulfilling. Don't be most people. You've been given a blueprint. You know the principles. You understand the tactics. The only question is whether you'll use them, whether you'll challenge the assumptions you've been following, whether you'll take action despite fear and uncertainty, whether you'll design a life worth living rather than accepting the default path. The 4-hour workweek isn't about working less for its own sake. It's about reclaiming your time so you can live the life you actually want, rather than the life you've been programmed to accept. It's about joining the new rich, people who understand that freedom is the ultimate wealth and who design their lives accordingly. Your deferred life plan is a prison. The door is unlocked. The question is, will you walk out? And there you have it. The 4-hour workweek, the complete blueprint for escaping the 9-to-5 trap, living wherever you want, and joining the new rich. Let's cut straight to the uncomfortable truth you now understand. The life plan you've been following, work for 40 years, save for retirement, live later, is a scam, not an intentional conspiracy, but a system designed for an era that no longer exists. And you've been running that program without ever questioning whether it actually serves you. You now know that the new rich don't defer life. They live it now. They don't trade time for money. They build systems that generate income automatically. They don't measure success by net worth. They measure it by freedom and time. They don't work more to earn more. They eliminate waste and focus on leverage. They don't wait for retirement to travel. They take mini retirements throughout life while they're young enough to enjoy them. You understand deal, definition, getting clear on what you actually want. Elimination, cutting the 80% of activities that produce minimal results. Automation, building income streams that pay you whether you're working or not. Liberation, using your freedom to live the lifestyle you've designed. You know about the Pareto principle. 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts, which means most of what you're doing is wasted. You know about selective ignorance and the low information diet, protecting your attention from constant distraction. You know about remote work negotiation, virtual assistants, muses, and geographic arbitrage. You have the complete toolkit. But here's where 95% of people who consume this information will fail completely. They'll watch this video, feel a rush of excitement, think, wow, this changes everything. Maybe buy the book, read it, highlight passages, feel inspired, and then do absolutely nothing. They'll return to their cubicle on Monday. They'll continue the same routines. They'll keep following the deferred life plan, and in 5 years, they'll still be dreaming about the freedom they could have had if they'd just taken action. Why? Because taking action requires confronting fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of leaving the secure path, fear of disappointing people who expect you to follow traditional routes, fear of discovering you're capable of more than you're currently doing, which would mean you've been settling. It's easier to stay comfortable and unfulfilled than to face those fears and actually change. Or they'll try for 2 weeks. They'll attempt to eliminate some activities. Maybe they'll test one business idea. It won't immediately work. They'll face their first obstacle or rejection, and they'll quit, telling themselves, "I tried, but it doesn't work for me." They'll return to the comfortable prison of the 9 to 5, telling themselves they made a responsible choice. Don't be that person. You now have information that most people will never have. You understand that the rules you've been following are negotiable. You know that the life you want is possible. Not someday, not after retirement, but now. The only question is whether you have the courage to actually pursue it. So here's your action step, and it needs to happen today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Pick one thing from this entire book and implement it immediately. Maybe it's doing a time audit, tracking every hour of your day for the next week to see where your time actually goes. Maybe it's identifying the 20% of your activities that produce 80% of your results. Maybe it's proposing a 2-day work-from-home trial to your employer. Maybe it's creating a landing page for one business idea and testing demand. Maybe it's hiring a virtual assistant for $25 and delegating your first task. Maybe it's calculating what your dream lifestyle would actually cost and realizing it's more attainable than you thought. Maybe it's booking a flight for a 1-month trial of living somewhere you've always wanted to go. One action, one step, today, not consuming more information, not planning more, not waiting for perfect conditions. Action. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. You already have enough information. You already know enough. What you lack is not knowledge, it's action. And no amount of additional information will compensate for lack of action. And here's the harder challenge. This will require you to disappoint people. Your parents might not understand why you're leaving a good job to pursue freedom. Your friends might not get why you're traveling instead of buying a house. Your colleagues might judge you for working remotely while they're in the office. Society will tell you you're being irresponsible, unrealistic, or selfish. Let them. You're not living your life for their approval. You're living it for yourself. And when you're 75 years old, looking back on your life, you won't regret disappointing some people. You'll regret not pursuing what you actually wanted because you were afraid of what they might think. Here's what Tim Ferriss learned, and what thousands of people who've followed this path have discovered. The regret of not trying is far more painful than the temporary discomfort of trying and failing. If you attempt the 4-hour workweek and it doesn't work, you'll have learned valuable lessons, had interesting experiences, and can return to traditional work. But if you never try, you'll spend your entire life wondering, what if? And that wondering will haunt you. 5 years from now, you'll arrive somewhere. The question is where. If you keep doing exactly what you're doing now, working the same job, following the same routines, deferring life to some distant retirement, you know exactly where you'll be. Probably not much different than where you are now. Maybe a bit older, a bit more tired, a bit more resigned to the way things are. Or you could be somewhere completely different. Living in a country you love. Working 4 hours per week on a business that runs automatically. Waking up without an alarm because you control your schedule. Spending your days learning, exploring, creating, connecting, whatever you want, because you've built the freedom to do it. That's not fantasy. That's what people are actually living right now. People who started with no more advantages than you have. They just decided to act. The 4-hour work week isn't a guarantee, it's a possibility. It's a roadmap that works if you work it. It's a set of principles that produce results if you implement them. But they only work if you actually use them. No amount of understanding creates results without implementation. So here's the final question, and it's the only one that matters. Are you going to act? Are you going to question the assumptions you've been following? Are you going to challenge the deferred life plan and build something different? Are you going to face your fears and actually try to create the life you want? Or are you going to close this video, think, that was interesting, and return to comfortable unfulfillment? The choice is yours. But understand that not choosing is choosing. Staying where you are is a choice. Following the default path is a choice you don't get to avoid choosing by not actively choosing something different. You're either consciously designing your life or unconsciously accepting the default. Both are choices. Both have consequences. If this video showed you that another way is possible, share it with someone trapped in the 9-to-5 who dreams of something different. Leave a comment with the one action you're committing to take this week and subscribe for more content that doesn't comfort you with convenient lies, but challenges you with uncomfortable truths. The 4-hour workweek is waiting. The new rich lifestyle is possible. Freedom is available. The question is, do you want it badly enough to actually do something about it? Your future self is counting on your answer. Choose wisely.